Yes, I mean, well, you left us hungry for more. So I'm sure some of us will go back and reread or read The Biggest Dick. No dick like Moby Dick. There's something about this spot that attracts falling bottles of water. But Cook mentioned the tiger and the fact that it is missing. Well, after the recent debacle of the Bengal tiger, I was reminded of Srikanto, from which there was a selection in school. এটা তো বাঘ নয়, না না আমি সিনার বহুরূপী. The Bengal tigers have turned into বহুরূপী. But maybe they'll get back to form soon. But I should first greet you, Honorable Chief Guest, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Honorable Vice Chancellor, distinguished colleagues, dear students, and the guests who have taken the trouble of coming here on a Tuesday afternoon, braving Dhaka traffic. I greet you. I should greet you with the greeting of my spirit animal. And what happens when you are greeted? You reply with the same greeting. Hiss! A mighty syllable. Hiss. It rhymes with kiss. And also miss and piss. All of them are pleasurable. So, Fakul let the snake out of the bag by telling you what my spirit animal is. Now, this thing about the spirit animal, there's been some confusions. Some of these speakers use the term totem, which has a long history behind it. Some used spirit animal. Now, you won't find spirit animal in every dictionary, but dictionary.com has this. What? Why are you laughing? In certain spiritual traditions or cultures, spirit animal refers to a spirit which helps guide or protect a person on a journey and whose characteristics that person shares or embodies. It is also metaphor, often humorous, for someone or something a person relates to or admires. The two meanings. I like the second one better. Not that about a spirit which helps guide or protect and all that, you see. All that new age stuff. But as metaphor, as a humorous metaphor, someone or something one can a person relates to or admires, yeah, that's fine. So the snake is an admirable creature. There's no doubt about it. In fact, you'll find that every culture has something or the other about the snake. There's a snake cult, a snake myth, everywhere, in every culture. Why? Because there's a primal connection between us and the snake. This is what evolutionary psychologists say. When we evolved on the savannas of Africa, those who didn't have the instinct to be scared of the snake quickly died and did not pass on their genes to the next generation. So those who survived, that's us, we are mighty scared of snakes. You see, it's hardwired into our brain. But what we fear is also something that fascinates us. And that is why the snake is in every culture. We all grew up with snake stories. Beside our house, there was a Hasna Henna Gach. And sometimes we would, wait at night for the snake to come. It never did. And then there are stories about snakes and their gems, their precious gems. And we really believed these things when we were tiny. And as I was growing up, the story of Manasa and Jat Saudagar and Behula was told and retold many times. It's the most fascinating folk narrative to emerge from the eastern part of the subcontinent. And this particular country is really the core where the myth of Manasa developed. There are still dozens and dozens of versions of the Manasa story, mouldering in libraries on palm leaf scrolls, which have not been transcribed. It's a palm leaf sheets which have not been transcribed. And as Fakul mentioned, I wanted to do something with the Manasa stories. Got hold of all the available versions, and out of 8 versions, I produced a composite English prose version, as it's the only one of its kind in any language, I think. And it was a fascinating experience. Now, I don't want to talk about the book. I want to talk about the snake as a spirit animal, and particularly as its connection with our culture. The Manasa story is still a living tradition. A couple of years back, I went to Dhaka, where at the end of Sravon, there's a festival, a Manasa festival, in which village drama troops, folk drama troops, they perform certain rituals and palas on the riverbank at 7 points, 7 bends of the river, where and Behula had to cross 7 bends of the river on her way to getting her husband back from the land of the dead. And all the performers were Muslims. There were even 2 Hajis. And now it's not that this is something that annoyed the Orthodox Muslims only. Even Orthodox Hindus don't really like Manasa. One of my students here, a Hindu student, came up to me one day and asked and told me, "Sir, I hear you've done a book narrating the Manasa stories, why did you choose this story? She's a low-caste goddess. So that's the bottom. So you see, I mean, the orthodox of either religion don't feel comfortable with her. And that is a special significance. She is like all divinities, she's not a simple personality. She can be vindictive, she can be charming, she can be flirtatious, she can be seductive, she can be generous. And she craves acknowledgement. Who doesn't? So, when somebody refuses her that, she becomes in all the vengefulness, cunning that she can muster come into play. And the classic story is, of course, the story of how Chand Saudagar, tried to defy her and how he was taken to task. Now, Chand Saudagar versus Manasa, the subaltern goddess. What is a Saudagar? A man whose primary purpose is to make profit. And who refuses to acknowledge this subaltern goddess. This idea can be built upon that there is a kind of conflict between the naked profit motive and the goddess whose aim is to create a kind of fused society where, everyone lives on the principle of live and let live, an organic society, you could say. Now, Manasa is still alive, and her story is still alive. And the story is revived from time to time. It is revived at critical points in history, because that is when her significance becomes very important, germane. In the 17th century, which is also called the Little Ice Age, when temperatures fell a little and there were droughts, fires, epidemics, wars. In Bengal also there was a drought, and the guy, a Saudagar, who eventually came to be known as Bunduki Saudagar, defied Manasa. So Manasa was after him. He was so arrogant, proud of his wealth and power, that he thought he could escape her. He took his family in his boats downriver, and then there was a tidal bore which destroyed the boats but spared the family. He brought them to a safe home, built a big sturdy house, and then he left them there and went to do some more trading to make more profit. He came back and saw that serpents and scorpions had killed his family, but he was still not bow down. His family comprised his wife and several children. It's a replay of the originals. So he boarded a ship. The ship set sail. The ship was attacked by pirates who sold him into slavery. He was bought by a guy called Nakhuda Ilyas, a captain. Nakhuda Ilyas liked him, he freed him and made him his companion. So the two of them went together. They picked up lots of cowries from the Maldives, carried on further, went to Egypt, from there to Istanbul, and there was a fire, and they had to run from there also. They went to Venice. And in Venice, again, one day, the Saudagar opened the book and saw Manasa on the pages of the book. She looked at him threateningly and realized that Manasa would not spare him even there. So he told Ilyas about this. Ilyas said, okay, I'll keep you in the gun room, which is made of steel, and locked him in. The next day he went and found that he had been bitten by a poisonous spider. So he said, now we've got to run from Venice. So they went towards Sicily. And again they were set upon by pirates, but miraculously saved by the creatures of the air and the water. And finally the Saudagar realized that there was no point in trying to defy Manasa, so he came back to Bengal, and in the Sundarbans he built a dham, a shrine to Manasa. Okay. Now this is the core of a novel just published by Amitav Ghosh. What I find fascinating is how a novel today by one of the leading writers, it has been awarded the Candidate. It's the first English language novel by to win the Candidate. That his imagination was triggered off by this story. And all kinds of things take place here. The migrants, the number of Bangladeshi migrants going to Europe, braving the Mediterranean in rubber rafts, is astonishing. And in Venice, the narrator hears Bengali everywhere, because there are big Bangladeshi, and then there were Bangladeshis in the streets. There's an attempt to so there's a lot about the problems, the contemporary problems in the globe regarding migration, regarding climate change, because we find that in Venice or in the West even, the weather has become freakish. So, all these are related to what? Human greed, the drive for profit. Okay. It's a fascinating novel. Now, then what next? And here I think I can bring in Donald Trump. I don't know if you've seen this news item. Donald Trump told his men that he wanted to buy Greenland and to explore the possibilities. The Denmark government, the Danish government, said they didn't want to sell. And a humorist on the New Yorker wrote a column where he says that the Danes want to buy the United States because the United States is in such heavy debt, you see, that they can be bought up. Now, does that tell you something? Trump seriously thinking of buying up Greenland? There are things happening there. Global warming is not restricted to our part of the world. It is going to open up the polar regions. And already the big powers are there looking at what they can do for the commercial exploitation of those regions with the warm-up, and also the military exploitation. The Russians, the Chinese, the Americans, their ships are all there, trying to open up new routes. So, the frozen wastes of northern Canada will bloom one day. And the big powers, now while all these conferences go on about what to do about global warming, how to restrict the carbon dioxide emissions, the real work is going on behind the scenes where the big powers are already making plans to exploit the polar regions when they warm up and start turning green. So the migrants will end up there. Monosha will end up there because the migrants will carry their culture with them. And I look forward to the day when a Monosha Dham will be set up at the North Pole. So with that, I will say, take your leave. Hiss.